I said that I don't believe that feminism is about equality. And I wanted to finish my point on that is because if I could give feminism the most generous definition, I would say that feminism is a women's advocacy movement.
Yes.
Right. And there's nothing wrong with women's advocacy. However, you can't say that it's an equality movement.
It's an equity movement.
No, it's not any of these things. Feminism.
Also, feminism isn't a monolith.
Well, okay, I'll get into that. But basically, feminism is a women's advocacy movement in its most generous sense. Nothing wrong with women's advocacy. However, you cannot deny that feminism is a man-hating ideology.
I can deny that.
Well, what is the core tenet of feminism? The patriarchy theory. Agree or disagree?
Not necessarily.
Is it a tenet of feminism? Is patriarchy
To some
theory,
people, yes. In some sects, yes.
Do you believe in the patriarchy?
Yeah.
Do you believe in the patriarchy theory?
Patriarchy theory being that it exists?
Sure. I mean, there's a
yes,
patriarchy
I believe that the patriarchy
theory.
exists, yeah.
Well, I would, as far as theories go, theories are not fact, and I would say that.
Well, it does. We don't have to really theorize. Only 25% of this is today. Only 25% of who is in Congress, we've never had a female president, but 25% of who's Congress is female, and that's today. That's in 2023.
That's another apex fallacy. You're looking at the top tier of men. Here, you want to take a look at who occupies the top positions of society. The CEOs, the politicians.
Yes.
But here's where feminists you don't consider that men occupy the worst positions in society. And I'm not just talking about in jobs.
Ivan Jr. donated $100. Berry's past has her so screwed up. She has issues with masculinity. Her words hate men. Her narrative is painful to bear. Wish I was there. Women are emotional manipulators, and the fem movement further damaged the nuclear family. I'm a man and I have self-control.
You can tell your audience has a lot of sex.
I mean, that's an ad hominem attack. It's, basically the feminist 101. Oh.
It was actually a passive-aggressive retort, but...
Fair enough. Okay, so we were talking about patriarchy.
Yeah. You were saying it was a fallacy.
No, what was I saying, actually?
You were saying that what I was saying was a fallacy, that 25% of who is
apex fallacy,
yeah.
Yes. So you don't consider that men occupy the absolute worst positions.
I do consider that.
Right, but this idea that
has nothing to do with that a patriarchy exists. So a patriarchy would be a state ruled by men. Primarily by men, which passes off power to other men, which is what we have lived in.
That's not true. Passes off power to other men.
Yes.
No,
and male interest. And because of that, because of bias, that's why on the Supreme Court we want people from different backgrounds, is because people will come in with their biases. If most of the people who are in charge of the free world are men, their biases are going to be for men's advantage. They're not going to think about women. They're not going to think about mothers. They're not going to think about females.
It's funny you mentioned that, because we recently elected a woman to the Supreme Court, mm-hmm. and you talk about the patriarchy and you talk about men. However, if I sort of have a sense of where you're getting at, if we're talking about Roe v. Wade being overturned, there are more women who are pro-life than there are men.
Yeah.
There's a lot of women who are pro-life.
I think everyone gets very caught up in the abortion debate. I think that's a whole nother.
Well,
that's a morality issue.
I don't want to
so
really go too far there,
one.
but a lot of women will say, well, the overturning of Roe v. Wade and trying to stifle women's access to abortion, that is the patriarchy. That is men imposing their will. However,
do you think the patriarchy only? Do you think that? So,
well, this
because
is
you're
smart.
Because you're a
I know
smart
where you're
guy.
going with this. I know where you're going with this.
Patriarchy doesn't just live through men. We all feel it. Women can be misogynist. Men can be misogynist. The patriarchy can live through women.
So, women who are women, are you saying they uphold the patriarchy? Look,
yes.
Do we currently live in a patriarchy?
Yes.
Under patriarchy, are women oppressed?
Yes.
Under patriarchy, are men oppressors?
Yes.
So are you oppressed?
In some ways.
How?
I think that, we talk about the sexual revolution. I think that one form of oppression that all women face is subjugation in the form of their sexuality. I think that women are forced to perform their sexuality. I think that women are forced to...
what do you mean by perform their sexuality?
Like, I think that women become sexual objects in the eyes of the patriarchy. I think that a lot of men view themselves that way, and I think that a lot of women are comfortable viewing themselves that way, in turn objectify themselves and objectify other women. I think that in a way that men are just not.
Well, that sounds like zero accountability to me, but
I don't think so at all. I think that I'm the first one to take accountability of what I have done for that.
Well, you're putting the blame on men for women sexualizing themselves.
Yeah, in a patriarchy, the blame would be on men.
Well, I feel like you can't really win with feminists. Either we're trying to stifle women's sexuality,
It
or
takes
we're
teamwork.
encouraging it. But
it takes teamwork. I think
okay.
first men need to see women as human and they're others, not their inferior others. I think if men stop using...
Most men don't view women in that way.
I would disagree with you. But that's
that's
a bias.
Isn't that a bit of a sexist statement to make? That you think
that
most
I think men are sexist? Yeah.
Well, I suppose in some ways. So you said you were oppressed. How were you oppressed?
I just talked about that. I talked about sexual subjugation.
But are you currently sexually subjugated?
Yes, certainly.
By your fiance?
By my fiance? No.
Well,
I think that there are individual players. When we're talking about an ideology, when we're talking about a political ecosystem that's different than individuals, right? I've already bit the bullet that I don't think every man is patriarchal, but I think that the society rages. I think that we are less so now than ever before. But I think that we are raised with patriarchal values. So men need to either unlearn that or they don't.
Unlearn what? What do
patriarchal values.
Which are what?
That men are the head of the household, that women should be submissive, that women are incubators, that women are fuck toys.
Well, I don't think men necessarily have that view. But so just on your first thing, you're talking about a traditional relationship dynamic where men are the leaders of their household. But
that's a Judeo-Christian relationship dynamic. That's not necessarily like even a naturalistic.
Bro, these chicks are so bored. It's so funny, bro.
I just think everything is too.
No, they're loving this shit.
Everything's too.
One guy that literally said, like,
everything's too black and white. Like if we just it's
like,
so
this is gonna go
dramatic.
nowhere,
Like it's
I
not that dramatic. You know what I'm saying?
No,
Like,
it's a good. I think it's a good conversation, though.
No, it is. But I'm saying the reason why it's like that, and like you guys are
also a
coming at each
panel.
other, is because it's so
Yeah.
black and white. If you live in a lot of people think in the gray.